Hello, and welcome to a bonus episode of our Mexico City Edition podcast. I am your host today, Sophie Smith. I am Member Experience Manager here at My Surrogacy Journey. In this episode, I'll be introducing you to the Mishcon team, exploring their role in supporting intended parents through the Mexico City pathway, and unpacking some of the key legal steps involved in international surrogacy. Welcome.
Warriors.
Can you introduce yourselves and your roles at Mishcon, please?
Absolutely. I'm Hannah Varley. I'm a partner at Mishcon de Reya, and I sit within the immigration team. I have been at Mishcon for 15 years. I trained there and I specialise in immigration. So I help families who are relocating to the UK, but specifically within the surrogacy offering, I help families navigate the immigration and nationality considerations that help get baby home and get them home as quickly as possible and support the family through that process.
Amazing.
Hi, my name's George Irving. I am an associate in the family department at Mishcon de Reya and also sit within the surrogacy and modern families team. And I work across all areas of family law. So that includes divorce and child arrangements, prenuptial agreements. And as a sort of a big area, a growing area of our practice is the surrogacy and modern family side. So that's helping apply for parental order applications once the baby is returned to the UK to ensure the our intended parents' legal status is recognised.
Amazing. Thank you so much for those introductions and welcome to this edition. Can you tell us a little bit more about Mishcon and why surrogacy?
Absolutely. So Mishcon is a full service law firm. We do a bit of everything. There's over 1,000 people at the firm, and I can assure you there is a lawyer that does something. If you need it, there's someone there. And we've got a real international offering. So we've got offices around the world, and a lot of our clients are internationally based. So George and I are part of the surrogacy and modern families team, and we help families who want to obviously are partaking in surrogacy and they need help with the UK element of bringing baby home and the parental order from the family side. There's obviously more to it than that. We can help with wills, we can help with tax advice. There's lots of different things that actually families want to take into account when they're considering surrogacy. And we can be a one-stop shop to help with that. Because we've got the joined up offering for immigration and family, we can therefore really make it a bespoke service for families and help intended parents with their journey. We've got lots of experience in the surrogacy remit, and we are very aware that everyone's journey is different and we want to help support them through that.
And one of the big factors on the family side of things is our external network as well. So alongside our sort of legal offering, we work with experts in all areas of family law, whether child education specialists, child therapists, therapists and psychologists and psychiatrists, and all sorts of addiction specialists, all sorts of different areas of sort of secondary offerings that we work with. So we have a huge network of professionals that if there is something fact specific on your case or for your family, then we will know someone who'll be able to help.
Yeah. And I think the key considerations for immigration are find out your circumstances. I find that intended parents often think, but I'm British or I've got this particular UK visa. Of course, my baby is going to share my immigration status. And it's not always the case. And even I find that quite shocking. So for intended parents, they're like, what? I can't believe that's how it works. And British nationality laws, immigration laws, they haven't caught up with modern families. And so it's making sure that we look at their circumstances, we look at the considerations that they need to take into account and how the immigration rules or British nationality rules apply to them and to their baby. Another key consideration is prepare your documents. You might need a document that's you had from when you were a child. It could be your birth certificate, it could be your British nationality certificate, and it could be that's up in a loft in your nan's attic. So it's really about gathering those documents so that you've got everything. You often need original documents. So preparation is key. And also be realistic with timeframes. the Home Office don't do things quickly in these circumstances. It's all about safeguarding the child and doing the relevant checks and due diligence. So we have to be realistic with our timeframes, and whether that's making the application from Mexico or making the application from the UK. And so we talk to our families about what works best for them and what's possible. Where can they make the application from, and what can we help with? Can we help get the baby back on a Mexican passport and provide a pack of documents that makes it entirely transparent to the border officer about why baby is entering on a Mexican passport, possibly with British parents, but that we are going to make a British passport application as soon as they enter the UK, but it's being done from the UK because of the family's circumstances, and they want to be home, they need to be home. So we make sure that the immigration journey is mapped out way before baby is born, because we can work out what we're going to do and how we're going to do it. We just can't submit it until baby is born and we've got that birth certificate. So it's really about making that pathway and making everyone aware of, this is how long we think it's going to take, this is where you're going to do it from, and this is how we can help. This is the pack of documents that we're going to prepare for you, and we'll submit as much as we can on your behalf so that you don't need to worry.
Why use an immigration lawyer?
Immigration is often not a consideration of intended parents. They're focused, rightly so, on baby and getting baby in your arms. But it's, how can we get baby home? And doesn't mean that baby's going to get a British passport automatically just because the parents are British. So it's about, how do we do that? And we've got very good contacts with the Passport Office, the Home Office. There's specific surrogacy teams. It might be that it's a very niche application because of a certain element in the intended parent's own immigration history. And so it can become quite complicated, and it's easy to make a mistake. So it's about us managing that process for them and submitting it on their behalf.
I think that's really important, isn't it, to build up that trust with the intended parents that you work with, so that they know that they can come to you for advice.
These areas, yeah, we're very aware that it's a long journey that these parents have been on, and actually the legal side is the last thing they want to think about. But it's actually a really important part, and we want to take that stress away for them. So it's about being there and being that support, but also not bothering them too much. The focus is maybe, and we love being a part of that journey with them.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Seeing the end-to-end, being with them from the very beginning until they hold their babies.
Such a positive experience, which, I mean, particularly George doesn't always get a positive experience with his time of work.
This is definitely one of the happiest of family law. It's also important to remember the relationship doesn't necessarily end when the baby's born or the parental order is granted. So, we stay in contact with our clients as the babies grow older, and there may be things later in life that they will need us for. And sort of having that relationship at the start of the process, it's a very happy to, and it's seeing families grow and progress. It's a nice area.
Yeah. I think the term trusted advisor gets bandied around a lot by lawyers, but we genuinely believe that. And, it's been part of our ethos for a long time. It is about building that trust with the client, and so that they can come to you with any problem. We might be able to help. If we can't, there's probably someone that we can direct them to. Yeah.
And can you just talk us through what are the key legal steps for UK-based intended parents bringing a child into the UK from Mexico via surrogacy?
The key is to prepare and gather as many documents as you can pre-baby. I think once baby's here, everyone wants the focus to be on baby, rightly so. So it's about doing as much prep work as possible, and that's getting the documents as finalised as we can, completing any forms that we can do in advance, so that everything's as ready to go as possible. So when baby's here, that's the main focus. It's really preparation. Then it's, once baby's born, obviously birth certificate, working out passport and getting baby home and whatever the immigration considerations are around that. And then decide on the parental order, the family offering. That's the sort of rough order of events.
Absolutely. And, the intended parents can come to you along the way, even once baby's born, before baby's born, to sort of put everything, like you say, preparation is key, isn't it? Because it is true, once the baby's here, you sort of lose focus a bit on all of the other things because you're focusing on looking at.
I mean, on family sides, our contact with the intended parents is often most of our calls and meetings are pre-birth because that's when they have time to give us all the necessary information at the airplanes, and then obviously we're waiting for some stuff post-birth. But a lot of our interaction is before this form.
Yeah. And it goes back to it being such a long journey. This baby is so wanted and has been so waited for. Why would they want to talk to us? Once babysit, we really try and do as much in advance and take the stress out of it so that we can just help. It's such a lovely part to be part of that process, and preparation is key.
Yeah. And what specific documents do intended parents need to gather during the pregnancy and after birth to support their application?
So basically, there's quite a lot of documents which are needed, but they sort of fall into rough different categories. So you acorns want to be satisfied that the correct processes and procedures have been followed in Mexico City. So we'll need copies of all the agreements and contracts and things entered into, and all the court orders from Mexico City that have been obtained in Mexico. So we need copies of all that sort of side of things. And then on the UK's English and Wales side of things, we will need to file correct court forms and ensure that the surrogate's consent has been obtained in the correct way. So they're more court documents that need to be completed in the correct way. But then we also need to satisfy that the Section 54 factors have been met, which is an evidential factors, and we put all this information into a witness statement and exhibit necessary documents to it. So it's things like the birth certificate, if the intended parents are married, in a marriage certificate, evidence of their home and domicile, if domicile is a question, especially with more international families, that can often be a question. Evidence for biological link. The courts have approved DNA testing providers, so ensuring a test has been obtained from one of those providers. There's sort of lots of like smaller evidential things that we collate, and we will put it into a witness statement and then present that to the court. So they're the sort of broad categories. Yeah. Then on the immigration side,
it's much of a muchness in the sense that some of the documents do overlap, and it's the birth certificate. It's showing evidence of the genetic link. It's showing evidence of the parent's immigration status, the consent of the surrogate. Is the surrogate married? And obviously we can pre-plan a lot of that in the sense of drafting the documents, but also working out what the immigration considerations are so that we can work out what we need. And everyone's situation is different, so it's working out what that family particularly need.
So it's really about the intended parents working closely because, like you say, every journey is different, every immigration background is different. Yeah. To make sure that, you're obviously specialising in a particular journey at that point in time. And
it matters if the surrogate is married, for example, which it seems silly. The British nationality laws are so archaic, and it shouldn't be that way, but that's where we are. And so it's just making sure that everyone's aware of these are the considerations, this is what we need to be aware of so that we can work towards the end goal.
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got one very key thing on the family side, if I can jump in. So the court also, obviously commercial surrogacy isn't legal in the UK, but the court recognises that people enter into commercial surrogacy agreements abroad. So the court will require evidence of all the payments which have been made in relation to surrogacy. So whether to the surrogate herself, surrogacy agency, expenses which are paid for, whether it's medical treatment, transfer of gametes, all these. So it's very key for intended parents when they go through the process to make sure they keep an accurate log of everything that's been spent. Because what we do as well is we present sort of a ledger to the court summarizing all these expenses and the different categories of expenses, and then ask the court to retrospectively approve these. And the court does so as long as that they're reasonable and they're not astronomical. But it's an important process. It's an important step that intended parents document all the expenses as they're going through the process.
And I think that's where we as an agency can also help support as well to make sure that is being,
done properly.
Yeah, it's being done properly.
Things aren't being missed. So there's so many different stages to this process.
Yes, there is.
Things.
Yeah, absolutely. And what are some of the common legal or logistical challenges families face when their child is born in Mexico?
I think a lot of them are actually practical considerations. It's a different language, a different time zone, time off work. You might have other children that are they coming with you? Have you got support around you? I think that's the big one that people often don't think about as much as they should, in that you're going to be there for a while, and where are you going to live? do you feel comfortable? What is it that, what support have you got around you, and other children, how are you dealing with them? Do they need time off school? Do you need time off work? What is it? You're in a foreign country, and that can sometimes make people quite anxious or a bit nervous. So it is about that comfortableness and feeling like you're in control. The Home Office they're very hot on safeguarding of children. And so if the aim is to get a British passport, it's not done overnight. These things take months. They've got a special surrogacy team that they look into the background and make sure everything is above board. And so it's really about making sure that we've done that prep work. It goes back to the preparation and making sure that whatever due diligence the Home Office will want to see, we have done it and we've got it and it's evidenced, and it's a tick box, and we're doing that for the family. And like I said before, the British nationality laws are so archaic and they're not up to date with modern families. And so it's trying to marry the two and find a way. Yes, this is the law, but this is the situation on the ground. Let us look after this for you.
Yeah. And I think, again, that goes back to the prep work from the beginning of, the first phone call that the intended parent has with us as an agency when they're thinking about, oh, do I want to go to Mexico City? What does that look like? And we always go over, the pros, the cons, absolutely. What, if you do have children, how will that look if you need to be in country with the baby once the baby's born? And, it is, knowledge is power, right? So if we can, give our intended parents as much knowledge as possible from the very beginning, that then helps with the legal process. And
Yeah. And I think on the legal side of things, it's important to remember that it's different from domestic surrogacy. So we're dealing with two legal systems here. So we're dealing with Mexico City and England and Wales. And as I mentioned earlier, the English and Welsh courts, there's more of a focus on ensuring that correct legal procedures and policies can be followed in the host country. So I think taking legal advice in Mexico, I'm instructing Mexican lawyers, which I'm sure through my surrogacy journey, you introduce people to, and ensuring all the procedures and legal processes have been correctly followed in Mexico is key, because we need to then evidence that at our end in the parental verification.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you support families in managing immigration advice, passport applications, and returning to the UK with their baby?
So we take as much of the stress away as we can. We do the whole package, and we really pride ourselves on providing that support for families. And like I said, it's such a positive experience. We pre-prepare as much as possible, because at that time, I find that intended parents are looking for something to do. There's a lot of waiting at that point where baby is just growing, and just in that belly. And, we want to do as much of it then, so that when baby's there, they can just focus on that. Immigration is sometimes overlooked. I think there's a lot of focus on getting baby here, as in getting baby in your arms. But actually, we need to think about getting baby in your arms in the UK.
Yeah.
And what considerations, is the baby automatically British? Is the baby not automatically British? And what does that look like? And it is different for everyone. And so it's making sure that there's a realistic time frame, that everyone's aware of that we can support them in, okay, we need these documents, let's get it ready beforehand. So it's really about a package, and just being there to answer those questions and take as much of the stress as we possibly can.
Yeah, absolutely. And how does surrogacy in Mexico legally differ from the UK? And how do you help navigate those differences? Because there's quite a lot, isn't there, of differences there?
Well, the big difference between Mexico and the UK is we can't have pre-birth orders in the UK, which is why we have to enter into the parental order process post-birth. And so, as I mentioned earlier, it's key to get advice in Mexico at the start, but then when you're on return to the UK, or actually not even on return to the UK, once you're still in Mexico, we can start the processes in the UK, and that's you can obtain the surrogate's consents up to 6 weeks post-birth. We can file the application for a parental order and then go through the court process. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the court needs to be satisfied of the Section 54 factors, which are evidential factors that we'll evidence through documentation in the witness statement. But then there's also the appointment of a parental order reporter by CAFCAS. CAFCAS is the agency that helps children and families through court processes. So they appoint a social worker, which sounds quite intimidating, but it is again, as we said, it's a happy side of their job. So they will meet with the independent parents and the baby once they've returned to the UK. They'll visit their home, and they'll make sure that the independent parents are capable of meeting the baby's needs. There's no welfare or safeguarding concerns, and that they as well are content that Section 54 factors have been met. And they produce a report, which is normally a couple of pages long. It's normally quite a nice process. They'll normally meet the family once or twice, and then the court uses that as evidence as part of the court process and in granting the parental report. So, yeah, that's one of the sort of key differences. In Mexico, everything is more pre-birth, when we're very much post-birth, ensuring that those Section 54 factors have been met.
And you said the documents can go off when baby's 6 weeks, from 6 weeks.
Well, that's when we can get
Yeah.
we can get the consent from the surrogate.
Yeah.
When we can file the initial court application. So you file the application with the court, and then they will come back. The court will then list it, and will make directions. So the court will say, "Oh, we want to witness evidence filed by this date, and a CAFCAS report produced by this date," and then it will also miss for a hearing. And court hearings, this sounds quite intimidating. They're not the sort of surrogacy court hearings are very nice, happy processes, and different judges have different approaches how they deal with it. Some judges will have read all the evidence and documents in advance, and then you go into the court hearing, and they sort of will confirm that they have no issues with everything if everything's been done correctly, and will make the parental order there and then. Some will sort of, and they do big groups of intended parents and babies at one time, whilst others will do it more of an individual basis and will invite people in and ask them questions, and we'll go through their application with them. But as I said, a court hearing sounds like sort of scary TV drama type thing. It's very much not that. It's a nice process, and it's a sort of nice formal recognition at the end of the process that this has now all been done. You've got your parental order. Intended parents really enjoy it. Often you go up with the judge and take the baby and have photos with the baby. It's almost like a sort of ceremonial thing at the end of this very long, difficult process. So
Yeah.
it's normally a nice occasion if everything's been done well.
I can vouch for that, having been through my own parental order hearing, which was in COVID, so it was online. It was a very happy day when I got that, confirmation. Me and my husband got that confirmation that our parental order had been granted. And I've also been very lucky to go to some of our intended parents court hearings in the UK as well. And it is a really happy day. It's not it's not too scary at all. It's actually, I found it a very emotional day, because you've been through such a journey, a surrogacy journey. It takes years, and
we're often there with other intended parents who have gone through the same journey, similar journeys, and it's a nice environment. And international surrogacies are always in the high courts. So in London there is the RCJ. There's a big, beautiful old building. It's a nice day out.
Yes. Yeah. And does it have to be done within a certain period? Is the baby is it within 6 months?
Yeah. So the application has to be, consent can be filed and obtained after 6 weeks, but the application should be filed within 6 months.
Yes.
If it's after 6 months, it's not necessarily fatal, but it's an extra consideration. So yeah, our advice is between 6 weeks and 6 months.
Yeah. Amazing. And now let's just move on to working, together with MSJ. How does working in a partnership with My Surrogacy Journey streamline or enhance the legal process for Mexico City Pathway?
So we've got a lovely, long-standing relationship with MSJ, and I feel like our values are really aligned. MSJ, they genuinely care about everyone in the process, and that's what we pride ourselves on as well. It isn't just another transaction or a legal thing. This is people's lives, and it's such an honor to be a part of. So it's lovely that I feel like our client care, it's very well matched, and we can provide that service of a one-stop shop offering, especially with the immigration and family, just like MSJ provide that package service. And it's experience, it's being experts in the field. All of that adds such a lot of weight to a family's experience. Intended parents may not have done this before. This could be the first time looking into it. So there's a lot of questions and there's a lot of unknowns. So having MSJ say, we've done this before, we can look after you, that's exactly the approach we take.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you say, our values are all.
And it's great being able to just sort of pick up the phone to MSJ as well if we want an update on where something is or where we are along the process. Instead of necessarily having to hassle the intended parents from the time, we have someone else, we have another port of call, and having everything managed by MSJ makes everything more streamlined. And
Yeah. And, our goals are to make this journey as easy as possible for our intended parents, because we do know how overwhelming it is. And we want to give as much information and give as much support as possible. So, yeah, working closely together, is really important, isn't it? What do you say to reassure intended parents who might be feeling overwhelmed by the legal side of things?
well, from the family end, I tell intended parents that the courts want to make parental orders. They have to be satisfied that the process has been followed correctly and there's no safeguarding or welfare concerns or any exploitation. But ultimately, the court doesn't want babies without legal parents or without proper recognition of the people who are caring for them. So the court very much want to help people through this process, and they want to help intended parents with the granting of parental orders. So what I'd say to reassure them, it's not an interrogation. It's not, they're not looking to trip you up. They're just making sure, they're just wanting to make sure things have been done in the best interest of the child and that the parental order can be made.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we're dealing with lots of different intended parents who organize themselves differently. And, that's what we're here to support with, and as well as you both, as Mishcon. Are there any changes or trends in international surrogacy law that could affect the Mexico City pathway in the future, do you think?
Well, I think the Mexico City pathway is going to grow. I think we've already, in our experience, we've seen a shift of people moving away from America, typically California. Obvious political reasons may motivate some people, but other people, financial reasons as well, into play. So, and I think in terms of other jurisdictions around the world, it's difficult to find jurisdictions which are affordable and also have the welfare and the legal sort of security and Mexico City offers all three of those. So we've definitely noticed an increase in people interested in the Mexico City pathway. And I think as more and more people do it, it's a snowball effect, isn't it? So yeah, the definite shift away from America is one of the sort of key factors in it, I think. In terms of other legal trends, it's where we put on ice slightly, but the Law Commission report in the UK and whether how that would impact the international landscape if it's taken up and put into law. We're yet to see if anything's going to be done with it.
I was going to say, what do you think is going to happen there?
I think the government are far too busy with other issues.
Unfortunately, I don't think it's high enough in anyone in the government's agenda to push through, and getting the Law Commission report in the first place took so long, and there was lots of excitement when it first came out, and now it's slightly sort of fallen off the radar slightly. So who knows? We'll see. Hopefully, there's a vice pregnancy journey and other agencies, fighting the champion. TBC.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
What's one piece of advice that you give to every intended parent using the Mexico City pathway before they begin their journey? What would your advice be?
Ask questions. This is your journey. And every journey is different. And so it's okay. Ask us. We're always here. Pick up the phone to us. We'd love to speak to you. So no question is a silly question.
Yeah.
I can't guarantee we've been asked it before because, probably have, but maybe not. And we really are open and happy to have a chat.
Yeah.
It's just ask us.
Yeah.
And I'd say start early, pair early,
Yeah.
and make sure you've got as many ducks as you can in a row before the baby's born.
Yeah. Do the research.
Do the
Yeah.
research. Also trust it and getting your documents in order. The more you do at the start, the easier it is.
Yeah. Yeah, preparation is key, whether that's the knowledge, documents, whatever it is. But it really is. Once you've got baby, you don't want to be doing all of that.
No.
And you shouldn't be. It really should be the focus on baby. So let us help.
Yeah. And I think it's important to add, make sure you feel comfortable with your legal firm, right? Build that relationship, make sure you feel it's inclusive. You obviously work with so many different people, same sex, heterosexual, different backgrounds, etc. Just make sure that, you're asking the right questions and, because you're going to be on this journey, our intended parents are on the journey with us for a long time, and as they will be with you. So
it's got to be the right fit. And yeah, and absolutely. Yeah. Whilst we try and fit to everyone, you've got to like us. Yeah. Got to work with us, and that's fine. It really is. It's about being comfortable and making sure that you've got people who are fighting your corner.
yeah, absolutely. Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you to the team at Mishcon for sharing their expertise and guidance with us today. If you're an intended parent on the Mexico City pathway and feeling a bit unsure about the legal side of things, then we hope this episode gave you some clarity and some confidence. If this episode touched you and you want to find out more about my surrogacy journey or Mishcon, please do reach out to us. We are a completely unique surrogacy membership agency. Please head over to our website, www.mysurrogacyjourney.com, or find us on Instagram at official mysurrogacyjourney. This is unlikely your first episode of the Mexico City Edition podcast, but if it is, then welcome. You can find all of our previous episodes on your preferred podcast platform, so do tune in and catch up whenever suits you. Thank you for listening. We have been My Surrogacy Journey podcast hosts. Goodbye.
Bye.